I've never been one to believe in ghosts or the supernatural, but that night at the warehouse changed everything. The building, an old industrial skeleton lost in the wilderness, was a grim sight even in daylight. Its rusty silhouette against the setting sun was enough to send shivers down my spine. The task was simple: retrieve some forgotten documents for the company. I parked my car near the entrance, its headlights casting long dancing shadows inside. The wind howled eerily around me, as if whispering secrets into the night. I shrugged it off, attributing the feeling to the isolation and the strange beauty of the deserted landscape. Inside, the warehouse felt like a maze of metal ribs and echoes. Every step resonated ominously, making my heart pound louder with each passing minute. Dust particles danced in the beam of my flashlight, creating an otherworldly spectacle. I found myself staring at them for too long, their ephemeral beauty both captivating and unnerving. Hours passed as I navigated through the labyrinth, locating document after document. Each one felt like a victory, a step closer to freedom from this cold tomb. But then came the first unnerving moment. A sudden gust of wind swept through the warehouse, sending a chilling echo reverberating throughout the structure. It sounded almost like a mournful wail, but I dismissed it as the whim of the wind. After locating the last document, I decided to take one last stroll around the building before leaving. The eerie silence had become comforting in its own way, a silent companion amidst the solitude. But then, I heard it. Soft footsteps echoing behind me. My heart skipped a beat, but I rationalized it as the architectural oddity of the warehouse playing tricks on my ears. Despite my rationalization, the feeling of being watched persisted. Shadows seemed to shift subtly at the corner of my eye, and every sound was amplified in the silence. The second unnerving moment occurred when I turned a corner and saw what appeared to be a figure standing still at a distance. My breath hitched, but as I squinted through the dim light, it dissolved into the maze of machinery. By midnight, I had gathered all the necessary documents. As I neared the exit, the third unnerving moment struck. The flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into darkness. Panic surged through me as I fumbled with the spare batteries, my hands shaking uncontrollably. When the light finally came back on, there was a definite sense of movement in the shadows, something too quick to discern properly. Finally, I stepped out of the warehouse, leaving behind the disquieting atmosphere. Yet, as I drove away, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something had followed me, its presence lingering like an unshakable chill. Even now, days later, the memory of that night haunts me, raising goosebumps and questions alike. Did I imagine things? Or was there truly something sinister lurking in the shadows of that forsaken warehouse? The following days were a whirlwind of restless nights and nervous days. Every creak in my apartment, every rustle of leaves outside sent my heart racing. I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, half expecting to find a spectral figure trailing me. Yet, nothing out of the ordinary happened, adding to the maddening uncertainty. A week later, I was tasked with another retrieval mission, this time at an abandoned hospital on the city's outskirts. The building, a testament to the passage of time, stood there in silent decay. A part of me wanted to flee, to avoid any possibility of reliving that dreadful night at the warehouse. But rationality prevailed, and I stepped into the hospital, armed with my flashlight and a newfound wariness. The hospital was eerier than the warehouse, its sterile silence broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. The air smelled of antiseptic and decay, a peculiar combination that turned my stomach. As I navigated through the maze of empty rooms and peeling walls, I couldn't help but feel like I was intruding on a space that demanded solitude. Just as I was about to leave, I heard it. Soft footsteps echoing down the hallway. My blood ran cold, but I convinced myself it was merely my imagination playing tricks. Yet, the feeling of being watched was palpable, an invisible weight pressing down on me. I quickened my pace, the sound of my own hurried breathing drowning out everything else. The flashlight flickered again, casting long, monstrous shadows on the walls. I changed the batteries, but the fear remained, etched deep into every fiber of my being. As I stepped out of the hospital, relief washed over me. But the sensation was short-lived as I noticed something unusual. The car's interior light was on, a clear indication that I hadn't locked the doors. Had I been so lost in fear that I had forgotten such a basic task? Driving back home, I felt more disturbed than reassured. The line between reality and imagination blurred, leaving me questioning my own senses. The experience at the hospital wasn't as overtly terrifying as the warehouse, but it left behind an insidious dread that festered, unyielding and corrosive. Now, as I sit here recounting these experiences, I can't help but wonder if there's something more to these occurrences. Am I truly alone in these deserted buildings? Or is there something else? Some presence that haunts me? Or perhaps it's just my overactive imagination playing a cruel game of shadows and whispers. Only time will tell. But until then, the chill remains, a constant companion in my journey into the heart of fear. Part 3. In the following weeks, I became obsessed with finding answers. Every spare moment was spent researching the warehouse and hospital, hoping to find some rational explanation for what I had experienced. Yet, my investigation only led to more questions and a growing sense of unease. The warehouse, once a bustling hub of activity, now stood as a forgotten relic, its history shrouded in mystery. The hospital, too, had a past marred by tragedy and controversy. Both places were linked by tales of unfortunate souls who met untimely ends within their walls. I tried to dismiss these stories as mere urban legends, but they burrowed under my skin, adding another layer to my escalating dread. The footsteps, the shadows, the feeling of being watched. Were they all manifestations of a haunting past seeping into the present? One evening I decided to revisit the warehouse. Armed with knowledge and driven by an inexplicable urge, I ventured back into the heart of darkness. The building felt different this time, heavier, as if carrying the weight of its own secrets. As I explored the familiar labyrinth, I noticed something peculiar. On one of the walls, there were faint traces of graffiti. It was barely visible, but with careful scrutiny, I made out the words "never forgotten" followed by a list of names. Among them was a chilling familiarity, the initials of those who had allegedly met their end in the warehouse. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into darkness. But instead of replacing the batteries, I stood there, enveloped in absolute silence. For the first time since that fateful night, I didn't feel afraid. Instead, a strange sense of calm washed over me. When I finally stepped out of the warehouse, I left behind not only the building, but also my skepticism. Whether it was sheer coincidence or something more sinister, I couldn't say. What remained was an inexplicable connection to the place and its spectral inhabitants. Days turned into nights, and each passing moment brought me closer to acceptance. Acceptance not of the supernatural, but of the unknown. Perhaps some things are better left unanswered, their true nature obscured by shadows and whispers. And so, here I am, still questioning my experiences, still searching for answers. Yet, every creak in the night, every soft echo down an empty hallway, serves as a haunting reminder of my encounters. A chill runs through me, not of fear, but of recognition. A silent acknowledgement of the presence that lingers in the shadows of my memory. But sleep beckons, and with it, dreams filled with rusty silhouettes against setting suns, echoes resonating in silence, and figures lurking just beyond the reach of light. Tomorrow, I'll wake up, ready to face another day, carrying the unresolved mystery within me like a secret companion. After all, isn't life itself a journey into the heart of fear, each step bringing us closer to the unknown?